right. Welcome back to the Geek Branch podcast. We're just still sitting in at the Gaming Pulse. We are looking right now at about how apparently there's been a leak about Rockstar's games. Next project is not going to be apparently Grand Theft Auto 6, but it's rumored to be a new IP set in the medieval era. The reason why people believe this is because a artist that is in India, who works for Rockstar India, yes, they have a studio in India, put in his LinkedIn that it said job responsibilities: creating modular environment pieces with organic finish, carefully following medieval architecture style. So one would believe that they're working towards a medieval game. Well, after that was released, somebody that is, I guess, a famous Redditor who had gotten some information accurate about GTA Online and Red Dead Redemption 2 in the past basically said that Project Medieval is going to be Rockstar's next game. And instead of Grand Theft Auto 6 or the previous rumored Bully 2, it isn't mentioned if the game will be open world, but it will supposedly have sword fighting and dueling mechanics.
So Grand Theft Horses.
Yeah.
Got it. My initial thought is this, because they usually take like very topical, like not topical, but very locale based games. So you have Red Dead, you have Grand Theft Auto. If they do medieval, could be something to do with the Arthur's Court, the Knights of the Round Table.
I don't think it's going to be medieval fantasy. I think it's going
to I don't think it'll go the fantasy route. I think it'll try to do their whole realism thing.
Yeah,
that they
I think
like
they're going to go Dark Ages.
Okay.
Yeah, during the Black Plague and all that.
Yeah, somewhere around that time.
Yeah.
Just because,
bring out your dead.
Because they have a tendency to make things humorous. Is the best way of putting it. And the best way I can think of them playing on their tendency to do so is to have the significantly large medieval town,
right,
like Paris,
yeah,
or London. You know what I'm saying? Where there's enough.
It'll probably definitely be in like somewhere like Britain, London, somewhere like that.
Yeah. Where there's just enough hustle and bustle for them to do the retarded things that they love to do.
Yeah,
which is just them.
Yeah,
like
going to it. Getting a horse and running over people, or like going to a brothel and
right, or going into a tavern and having a bar fight, or like
the usual,
hijacking a knight's horse and running off with it.
It'll probably be more like Red Dead, where there's more than just one town.
Well, no, I'm not saying that there's just going to be one, but what I'm saying is that it has to be significantly large enough for them to like toss in their
what they're known for.
Yeah,
but they've also made Max Payne and Bully,
which is more on the rail.
Yeah, but I don't think they'll go that route with this.
But their most popular things have been off-rail open world. So I'm thinking that they're going to lean towards what they've been doing successfully. Yeah. Because, I mean, not that Max Payne or Bully weren't great games. They were actually really fun.
They did Max Payne 3.
Yeah.
I don't think they did the first two.
No. But Max Payne 3 was also, once again, pretty fun.
When people think of this company, they always think of Grand Theft Auto. They think of Red Dead, a big open.
Well, now they really think of Red Dead.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but okay, so they even managed to get their patent ridiculousness into Bully and into Max Payne 3.
Right.
So, they could do it either way. I just know that is what is to be expected of them. Yeah. A fair amount of just ridiculousness.
Yeah, no.
Because that's
their thing.
Yeah. So I sit there and I'm wondering, I'm like, okay, so obviously the best time in which to do this, especially if they want to keep that pattern of humor that they have, is standard medieval court times. You know what I'm saying? So that you can have something like a really pompous king or queen or like noble character that runs around and just is, something that you can kind of make fun of. Like the Trevor character from
from GTA 5. Sorry, I still had myself muted.
Yeah, so the Trevor character is another big important thing, and that whole type of situational comedy that they do in relation to him, just some of the crazy stuff that he gets into as a part of the cutscenes in the game. Totally, I see them focusing in on that and just the medieval aspect.
That made that guy actually have a real career thanks to that role. He's been in a lot of different shows now. He's been in The Walking Dead and different things like that.
Yeah, he's one of the sub bosses in Negan's crew in The Walking Dead.
I don't know. I don't watch the show, but
Oh,
Yeah, neither do I.
I'm sorry.
tragic. Don't worry about it. I died off of it, of
Yeah.
course. I'm just a giant Robert Kirkman fan.
Yeah. Well, they didn't follow most of
Yeah.
the comic, anyways. So yeah, I'm sure they'll do the usual Grand Theft Auto thing, just in a different time period.
And I see it working. I mean, like, just like you could have that same thing where you see him walking out of some random dude's house getting chased by the husband because he slept with the wife. We could totally have the same thing
Yep.
happening here where like you'll see him escaping from the castle because he slept with the princess.
Now, while it would be hilarious if they went the King Arthur route, I just don't see them doing the magical stuff.
Yeah.
It would be really funny though if you did play one of the Knights of the Round Table and like King Arthur's having to like bail you out of things.
Yeah, manage the retardedness that is the some of the knights.
Yeah.
Like Tristan just running around flirting with everything that moves.
Yes. But that's just not in Rockstar's repertoire.
Yeah.
That's the word I was going to use.
I just like I feel like they're gonna go with the more grounded,
Obvious
ridiculous
choice for them.
I feel like it's gonna be much closer to Monty Python in that kind of like surrealism than it would be to King Arthur and the fantasy. I think that we're gonna have a whole bunch of just really weird and retarded, medieval.
But they can't
moments.
do the coconut thing.
No.
That's a lawsuit.
Have you guys seen the from the creators of Futurama, Disenchanted?
Some of it.
Yeah. Well, he's the creator of Simpsons and Futurama, but yeah,
I mean, it's not.
it's a
great.
good show.
Nah,
It's all right. I enjoy it.
I have a negative opinion of it, but
I mean, out of the three shows,
it is the worst.
Futurama is clearly the far superior show of them all.
Yes, but it's definitively like I don't know.
It's the weakest out of the three.
He did not carry the mojo. But my point being is that show is filled.
His name's Matt Growing, by the way.
That game is filled. Oh, sorry, not the game. That show is filled with that offbeat medieval comedy nonsense. Just like medieval.
Making references to the medieval times that most people wouldn't understand.
Right. God, what was it? In fact, the same thing that you did about Bring Out Your Dead.
Yeah,
like how that's
Monty Python.
Yeah, like that's a comedy line. I expect that to be really thematic with this game.
Yeah, I would expect that. Well, Red Dead Redemption 2 had a lot of serious stuff with it too, though. A lot of serious themes mixed in with the not so serious.
Yeah, but like at the same time, I feel like it was really forced as compared to Red Dead 1.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, really forced, like, in a lot of ways. I think that maybe Rockstar got a little bit too political with Red Dead 2. And kind of
I didn't finish it because I heard the third act got really dumb.
Yeah.
I stayed in the fun area.
Right. Like, I feel like maybe at some point in time, like, right around, actually, about the beginning of the third act, somebody walked into the studio and was like, guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but we have to kind of like shove politics into this game. It's like, you mean politics is appropriate for the time? I mean, like, no, I mean modern politics.
Modern politics.
Because there are some things that come up, like with the suffragettes, for instance, back when women were pushing for the right to vote.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you feel out of place.
That wasn't then.
It wasn't even then. It's like, I guess, like the predecessor to it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want to call it. My point being is that
it feels out of place in that
right
game.
because
especially in the Wild West,
because it's supposed to be a dirty Western.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then I got the best way of putting it. Eventually, Red Dead becomes too meta.
Okay.
It becomes too self-aware in a really kind of odd way. Like, for instance, you run across.
Yeah, I didn't get to the parts where you're in the more civilized town.
Parts of town. But no, even when you were back out in the wilderness, did you ever run across like the rednecks? Which is functionally what they are. They're rednecks. But so like there are tropes for that type of character that only make sense to modern people.
Right.
And
like they made tropes to I think like Gunsmoke and things like that.
Yeah. And so like when you get to the rednecks, you're like, people are calling them inbred and going with these like horrible Appalachian Mountain type of like
terminologies.
Right. And I'm just kind of like, I don't think that anyone at this time would consider them in this way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
They didn't view it like that.
Right, because in order to look at them this way, you have to look at yourself as being particularly civilized, and these bunch of cowboys,
Outlaws.
yeah, right,
They're not civilized.
not at all.
And
but
they
you're
make a point of that.
Yeah, but they're taking the higher ground here when dealing with these rednecks because this is functionally what they are. They're just like separate. It's like cowboys and rednecks, and I'm like, you're not that different,
Right.
enough to make this type of conversation happen.
Right.
So it feels like it was just too.
If they try to get political, I could see them trying to turn it into a joke from medieval times, like they do with Disenchantment. They try to do the political thing with it, but then they just turn it into a big joke.
Right, which I'm vastly preferring that there is that humor as opposed to that political swing.
Yeah,
because man, it ain't there. Like, and if you wanted to like really, really, represent it, you could.
Yeah, just without. Because people didn't have the mindset that we have now. You can't pretend like they did.
Right.
Yeah. So they can still struggle, and you can see that they had those struggles, and no one was doing anything about it during those times.
So look, like if you wanted to be topical, and Red Dead, I hate that Red Dead Redemption didn't really decide to touch on this in the way that they should have, but we're right around the same time where there are like free blacks that are intermersing throughout like that current
in the West,
current American society. So you have black cowboys.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously,
you have a few that are part of your crew.
Yeah, right. But and obviously,
or one maybe. Yeah, I know there's at least one.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, but obviously, when you're in the territories, the wild territories, before you reach back into civilization,
right.
When you're in the territories, they're perfectly compatible.
Right.
There's nothing wrong here. You're friends with them. You hang out with them. You're good. And then when you start heading south, right, you should expect some conflict.
Yeah.
Which, of course, there is, racist, for lack of better terms, in the game.
Yeah. As you would expect.
Right. But it doesn't seem natural.
Right.
It seems really bizarre, actually, and that this interaction is coming up, right? Like, for instance, let's say, like, you and your posse, you guys were supposed to head south, like, I don't know, I guess it would be the equivalent of, like, heading into Texas, for instance, or something like that.
So it should be like how racism was, and then this is a weird reference, but... And I'm sure you've seen this movie, but Holes. When you did the flashback sequences with the guy that fell in love with the teacher.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Like,
and because that was during the Wild West days,
and it
wasn't an area like that.
Right. I'm saying it feels much more natural there than it did in the game, and I'm kind of like, why though? You had a perfect opportunity to cover this.
Yeah.
Like, what would have been really cool? I don't think that the U.S. Army ever really kind of like has a strong point in Red Dead 2. Did you ever feel like they had a strong,
not like the first one?
Right. Where they're just like you have these, post-Confederate soldiers and all these other cool, like, things that could have been running around here in this time period. But like there were also, to a certain extent, blacks in the military, just like there were black cowboys.
Yeah.
Right. You remember what's the name of that movie? It had Morgan Freeman in it. It had Denzel Washington. I think it's called Glory. It was literally the Black Army Regiment.
Okay, yeah.
That was fighting for the North.
Yeah, I think it was like in the 90s when it came out.
Yeah, they all unfortunately died.
Yeah.
But it was a great movie.
Yeah.
Like we could have had those types of characters interspersed throughout the story, and it could have been really interesting to see that maybe some of them deserted, right? And joined up with posses like the one that you run. It would have been really cool. There are so many cool things they could have done. And I hope that in the medieval times they treat it a little bit better, that it doesn't seem so modern and meta.
Yeah, it had Matthew Broderick, Morgan Freeman, and Denzel.
Yeah, what was the name of the movie? Is it Glory?
Glory, it's Glory.
Okay, good. I remember that. Well, I love that movie, and I feel like that type of
1989. I was off, but I was pretty close.
But that type of character portrayal, would have fit really well in Red Dead.
Yeah,
and would have been natural and flowed very well. You know what I'm saying? If you wanted to touch on like racial issues during the time, these characters would have fit in with your character almost perfectly.
They acted more natural about the natives.
Yeah, that was a vast improvement. But at that point in time, though, the natives aren't very important.
Yeah.
Like when you're dealing with the territories, most natives are just there.
Yeah.
Almost not necessarily on reservations, but just kind of like we're past the point in which there's a major conflict.
Like they knew where they were and where they were set.
Right.
In life.
So they're
at
like,
that point.
You're coming through their territory. Don't cause trouble. Go on with your life. We don't care about you. They're not egregiously antagonistic to you.
Yeah.
as opposed to like, maybe it would be more like this is the time for bringing up racial issues, I think, this time span than it would have been to bring up issues with Native Americans and colonialism. So I'm kind of like, you missed
They
your
missed the
window
mark.
here. Yeah, you missed your window here. That's just me.
They could go down that route with the medieval times too.
Yeah, well, man, hopefully they be,
They
more,
handle it right.
Yeah, more correct about it. Like,
more accurate to the times.
And just more topical, like actually on point for what you should be maybe focusing on. These are the issues of that time. In fact, the medieval point, just like how Red Dead Redemption kind of missed the mark where it could have focused on racism a little bit and just the cultural zeitgeist of that time. In medieval times, the conflict has always been, feudalism, peasants, serfs with nobles,
right?
And that contrast between aristocracy and functionally what you would call back then the working class. A perfect example of how you could play that out would be like your character, perhaps, or maybe they do like multiple sets of characters like they did in GTA, where you could play as a peasant.
GTA 5.
Yeah, like a peasant or a bandit, or a noble in one instance. You know what I'm saying?
3 different characters.
Right. And you could just cover all 3 bases and how those 3 characters interacted. Because functionally, as far as GTA 5 is concerned, every one of the characters had a different social class.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There was middle class / wealthy, some guy from the ghetto, and a lunatic that
was a redneck.
Yeah, redneck.
White trash.
Functionally, right?
Yeah.
Which was actually probably poorer than the black guy. So
yeah, he was. He was most indefinitely.
Yeah, right. So I'm saying you get this social strata across the characters that you're playing, and we could replicate the exact same thing in medieval times, and it could be.
That was one of the biggest points of the medieval times was the social structure and how it was I mean, like you said, you got the poor, you got the people that worked for the king or the queen, and the peasants, the slaves.
Right. So I would love to have.
So they were different slaves than what we're familiar with.
But nevertheless, they functionally were because they had no rights and no powers and no authority. Right. So like I would love to see it set around the time of the Magna Carta when the barons are pushing the king to have
with
special
Spain
rights.
and all that.
Yeah. Magna Carta specifically, Britain.
Yeah, but that was when they were like trying to compete with Spain and all that during that time period.
Yeah, Britain, France, Spain, and all of them were, in conflict with each other. Yeah. So around the time of the Magna Carta, I'd love to see that sort of conflict where the barons are pushing for rights from the king. I'd love for the characters to be a baron or some type of lower nobility, a merchant, right, who has power outside of the aristocracy because he has raw wealth,
right,
and then a peasant that may decide to work for the baron or may decide to become a
wants to try to move up the ladder,
right? Or
that scrappy young guy that wants to move up the ladder,
right, and go above his class. Yeah, he might even become a bandit to do so.
Yeah, Robin Hood type character.
Right, there's so many good things that can come out of this game. I don't know. Of course, no one's from Rockstar is going to be catching our podcast.
No, they're not very concerned about what we have to say.
But like, that's what I would hope for. Yeah, and this is all in their wheelhouse. This is all something they could do. Will they?
Probably something that Kessler does not ever care to play. Not your style of game.
Maybe depends. I mean,
did you have any favorites amongst the Rockstar games?
No.
See, told you.
Oops.
No, you're fine. Rockstar's not his style. They don't have anime characters.
I'm not saying that
I mean,
I'm not saying that they're bad games.
I'm just kidding. You play games that don't just have anime characters in them. Sometimes.
I mean, I was mostly there for Red Dead. I'm not a big GTA guy.
GTA, I never beat the storyline. I get
definitely not a GTA guy.
I get too distracted with all the stuff you can do, and then I just get bored of the game after a while.
I think that actually the only one I actually really sat down and played was San Andreas.
The only one I actually beat was Vice City, and it was because I couldn't own the game, and so I would secretly play the game when my mom didn't know what I was playing, because she was like, "You can't," you know how parents were, especially back then, especially with how they try to make GTA to be as bad, try to make it
as
horrible as they could. Yeah. So you know, I'd have to play that, and then like I'd have to have a game like off to the side, ready at any moment to look like I was playing that instead.
Yeah, at that point you're invested.
Yeah, so and that was my favorite one, probably for that very reason right there.
Yep, yep. But yeah, so I believe they're capable, but the concerns that I had across GTA and across Red Dead, because Red Dead's my primary Rockstar game.
Right. Well, of
That's
course, Wild West is amazing.
yes. I just hope that they can carry it through to make something good because I love medieval times.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna work on another Red Dead game for a very, very, very long time.
Nah, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think they're done.
Maybe Red Dead 3 in like half a decade from now.
Yeah,
6 or 7 years.
No, I expect a decade.
Really, a
From
full
now.
decade?
Yeah.
I don't think they can wait that long.
I mean, Red Dead was almost a decade.
Yeah, but with the success of Red Dead
Yeah, that's
2,
true.
I don't think
But
they
then
can
we
wait
got
that long.
GTA 6. We're still waiting on GTA 5.
Well,
The
that's
first
because-
version of it came out a while ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying because they've remade GTA 5 like
2 times.
yeah.
But anyways, obviously we're interested to see the direction that they take this medieval game. Hopefully, they take their time as they always do with it and make some really good story plot ideas.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Most of all, thank you for letting us get to the root of our geek culture with you. Thanks, guys.